Gazing into space was a natural interest of mine as a kid. My first real big present was a telescope. I was out there on my lawn for every astronomical event. My dad was always right there with me. We saw the Perseids, supermoons, planets. I got better and better telescopes. My dad and I would even go on camping trips just to see some faraway meteor showers. Things were great until I was about 12 years old. My dad vanished. Not a word to my mom. Not a word to me. No one saw him on the day he disappeared. We filed a missing person report, but even now, 10 years later, absolutely nothing has come of it. I still remember the last message he sent me, the night before he disappeared. He took a high-res picture of the Big Dipper, but there was one star that wasn't supposed to be there. He asked me if I could identify it. I couldn't manage to figure out what that star was. Never seen it on another picture of the Big Dipper. After he disappeared, I pretty much quit stargazing. It felt so empty without him. It wasn't worth my time. However, this Halloween weekend of 2021, I heard about this huge Aurora Borealis event in North America. All the telescopes I owned as a kid were sold, but that was an impressive phenomenon you could see with your naked eye. I had plans for a Halloween party on Sunday. However, I figured on Saturday I could drive out to some dark place and catch a glimpse of it. I asked my friend Michelle if she wanted to come, but she was busy all weekend. Typical. At about 10 p.m., I drove out to a hiking trail with no light pollution. As I drove in, there was literally no one there. Of course, that was understandable. It was -5 degrees. I had on a winter coat, a beanie, and a pair of mittens. I could already see the Aurora Borealis, but I figured I could hike up for a better view. It was dark out and kinda unnerving to be hiking alone in the wilderness, but I had bear spray. Still, that didn't stop me from almost jumping out of my skin hearing a branch crack behind me. It must have been nothing, or at least nothing I could see. When I almost tripped on a root hiking up, I decided to turn on my phone's flashlight. But even though I had it fully charged when I left, it was at 5%. I cursed to myself. Shitty phone batteries, am I right? I figured I'd better save the battery I had in case I needed to make a call. Aside from that, the climb was actually pretty relaxing. It took me about 30 minutes before I reached a clearing in the trail. The view was to die for. The colors were vivid and the lights danced so nicely. I spent a long time looking at it, just sort of losing myself in the spectacle. I figured I'd take a picture to show my friends, but my phone was dead. I let out a heavy sigh. My breath formed a cloud in the cold. It was the sensible thing to head back to my car now, so I figured I'd just take one last look at the Aurora Borealis, then head back. There was something there I hadn't seen the first time I looked though. A super bright star. It shined brightly even against the lights. I don't know why, but I had this pit in my stomach looking at it. At first I assumed it was the International Space Station, but it was moving so oddly that it couldn't be. It was also getting brighter and brighter. Maybe I was just in shock, but it took me what felt like forever to clue into the fact that it was getting closer. This deep buzzing sound filled the air as a violent light beamed down onto where I was standing. It was so loud I thought I might go deaf, and so bright I thought I might go blind. I could barely see, but there was a massive black and violet triangle hovering above me. It was so surreal, it was almost like a dream. Then suddenly all at once, the sound stopped. Its brightest lights shut off. There was nothing left but the ship, and the low humming it emitted. The bottom of the ship folded open in 3 directions towards its corners, and something began to descend weightless through the air down towards me. Tall, gray, thin men with large black soulless eyes. Lucky for me, my flight or fight reflex finally kicked in, and I chose flight. I bolted out of there the fastest I've ever run in my life. I could hear those aliens behind me, chittering and making ethereal hissing noises. I could tell they were coming after me by the noises they made getting louder, but I couldn't hear them running. They moved in complete silence, save for their otherworldly vocalizations. I was running for my life down that hiking trail, screaming for help. Just my luck though, I tripped on a root sticking out of the trail and fell flat on my face. I moved quickly to get back up, but even though I heard nothing, they were already upon me. One of them was standing over me, doing nothing but staring. It began to reach out for me with its long, gray fingers. I thought fast and sprayed that thing in the face with my bear spray. I wasn't sure if it would work, but the bear spray made it stumble back and scream. That alien had such a loud, shrill scream that my ears began ringing in my head. Even though it hurt, the adrenaline kept me going, and I continued my sprint down the mountain. I managed to reach the parking lot and quickly unlocked my car, then jumped in. I started it, and the headlights illuminated 4 of the aliens standing at the start of the trail. They were so tall, gray, but in a way I've never seen before. Their inscrutable eyes stared into me as I backed out of the parking lot and sped into the safety of the highway. On the drive home, I realized my ears were bleeding, and I could barely hear anything. I decided to drive to the hospital to get checked out. I made some shit up about listening to my music too loud. They clearly didn't buy it. It was late, however, so they didn't bother questioning it. They stuffed some cotton in my ears and told me to wait for a doctor to examine me. About 20 minutes later, the doctor showed up and took a look into my ears. There was a grim expression on his face as he finished the exam, and he told me I'll have permanent hearing damage. My tears started to well up. The doctor said he'd give me some time and left. I started crying. I could barely hear my own sobs, but I spent about 5 minutes there. It wasn't just losing my hearing that made me cry. It was the stress of the whole experience. I couldn't get their eyes out of my head. I eventually managed to collect myself and got up. The doctor told me I'll need hearing aids. He referred me to a hearing specialist and sent me on my way. I laid in my bed that night, unable to sleep with all the thoughts in my head. I was looking through old photos on my phone, and I saw that picture. Shout out to my superfans, Sweet Black Swan, Casey, and Brooklyn. I really appreciate you guys supporting my channel, and I really look forward to making more content for everyone.